proven process. First, you receive a complimentary case review to confirm eligibility. Next, an exit strategy is customized to your specific situation. Finally, the Lone Star Transfer team implements your plan, guarantees results. I have partnered with the owners for more than 5 years, personally witnessed the outcomes delivered to our listeners. No surprise fees, no unused vacations, no stress, peace of mind. So please visit LoneStarTransfer.com or call 855-551-7066.
Connor Roofing, you can count on Connor. Connor Roofing is now a 2-time winner of the National Best of the Best Award for customer satisfaction for roofing, storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, both residential and commercial. Please visit ConnorRoofing.com for an estimate. And remember, you can count on Connor.
Now, the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 2 years ago today, President Biden told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that the USA would not support a military strike against Iran. That decision emboldened the mullahs and their pursuit of a nuclear weapon. Here is the story. On April 1st, 2024, Israel launched an airstrike against the Iranian embassy in Damascus, Syria, eliminating 2 senior generals. The mission was part of Jerusalem's response to the October 7th attack that killed more than 1,200 Israeli civilians. In retaliation, Tehran authorized Operation True Promise. Hundreds of drones and missiles were fired against Israel. Despite the barrage, the country's Iron Dome defense system destroyed 99% of the projectiles before they reached their targets. And back in Washington, D.C., President Biden and his national security team feared a wider war in the Middle East. On April 14th, the president called Netanyahu, telling him the USA would not take part in any counter-strike. Said one senior member of the administration, quote, "The U.S. is not looking for a significant escalation with Tehran. The president was very clear that we're going to help defend Israel, but we have to think carefully about the risk of escalation." And here's something else you might not know. Under President Biden, the global threat from Iran grew. In total, the Islamic Republic received more than $50 billion in previously frozen assets. Despite numerous efforts and financial incentives, negotiations to end the regime's nuclear program faltered in 2022. The chaos culminated with October 7th and that attack on Israel from Iranian proxies, Hamas, in Gaza. Back in a moment. Here's a bulletin for American homeowners. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft, and your equity is a target. With just a Ford signature, your ownership can be transferred out of your name. Without protection in place, you are left with an emotional and financial nightmare. That's why I partner with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code BILL at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report, plus a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you're a victim of fraud, they'll spend up to $1 million to fix it. So don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. HomeTitleLock.com, promo code BILL. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. For more news and honest analysis, please go to BillO'Reilly.com. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
News, analysis, opinion. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. The announced resignation of 2 members of Congress this week could affect the balance of power in the House of Representatives.
California Democrat Eric Swalwell said he will leave Congress after facing sexual misconduct allegations. And a short time later on Monday evening, Republican Tony Gonzalez of Texas announced his retirement after recently admitting to an affair with a staff member who later died by suicide. Given the razor-thin GOP majority in the House, the timing of the Swalwell and Gonzalez departures and who wins the special elections could shift the balance of power. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Lebanese people are anticipating the outcome of an upcoming Lebanese-Israel meeting in Washington.
Residents in Beirut say they're not opposed to direct talks with Israel, but many express pessimism that they would not be fruitful. Beirut resident Bilal Keber tells the AP, "I'm with peace, this must eventually be resolved, otherwise the two sides will keep striking each other." Well, Haytham Kaya, another resident, says he hopes that there will be a good outcome from the talks, but that he'd never seen negotiations involving Lebanon be successful. The militant Hezbollah group has urged the state to pull out of discussions in Washington, the first such negotiations in decades. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The 2-hour talks today concluded on an upbeat note. The Kennedy Center's new executive director, Matt Floca, is leading tours to show the building's need for major repairs. These tours highlight water damage and issues with the high-vac system and parking garages. It was another good day on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 317 points, the Nasdaq rising by 455, the S&P 500 advancing by 81. More at townhall.com.
Health insurance rates are surging in America, leaving millions without affordable options. If you're sick of having paychecks eaten up by healthcare costs or dealing with mega corporations, then listen to this. Christians don't need to waste money on a broken system. That's why I want to tell you about Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's an alternative to traditional health insurance at half the cost. With CHM, fellow believers contribute monthly to help pay each other's medical bills. There's no enrollment period, so you can join anytime. And you aren't restricted to provider networks, so you choose the doctors and hospitals you want. It's that simple. CHM is not insurance. It's a ministry that puts faith into action. Feel the difference of financial support and biblical care from fellow believers. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. That's chministries.org/wellness.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Spring has sprung at Daniel's Farming Greenhouses on Joggerman and St. Peters. Discover our breathtaking 55,000 square feet of greenhouses featuring 8,000 hanging baskets, hundreds of perennials, and 100,000 pods of colorful annuals. From vegetable plants to premium grass seed, mulch to herbs, our knowledgeable staff is ready to answer all your questions. Start spring off right with pansies, potted tulips, and everything your garden craves. Daniel's Farming Greenhouses. Visit us today on Juggerman or online at danielsfarminggreenhouses.com.
License number GL250000615.
We've seen all kinds of clogs, so remember the rule. Only flush 3 things. Number 1, number 2, and toilet paper.
What about my dinosaurs?
No.
My monster truck?
Nope.
What about...
If it's not the big 3, don't flush it.
But if someone does flush a dinosaur...
Call Grasser. We clear the clog and get things moving again.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
On my way to work in the morning.
Usually I'm in the car.
I listen on the app in my car every morning going to work.
Download the News Talk STL app and listen anytime, anywhere. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The United States started its naval blockade yesterday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're around 17 hours in. And basically, a lot of the traffic, the little trickle we've seen since the start of the war, has come to a screeching halt, apart from one incident. And this is really interesting because this is a Chinese-owned vessel. It's now said to have tested the U.S. naval blockade because it has passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this is a tanker that has been sanctioned since March 2023 by the U.S. Treasury Department because it has links to Iran.
406 and welcome into the April 14th Tuesday edition of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. And there you have it. The Chinese are testing President Trump. They sent a vessel into the Hormuz Strait. But according to my notes, the vessel did not enter the blockaded area, which only prevents travel to and from Iranian ports. So they tested it, but they didn't test it. But this will be something, of course, that the world will be watching in the coming days and weeks. Will this blockade of the Hormuz Strait stay open? We'll talk about that and much more with my partner, Speaker Tim Jones, who, of course, is in the Jefferson City Bureau there in Jefferson City at the Capitol. Mr. Speaker, how are you today?
Good afternoon, Chris, Joey, and everybody in News Talk STL Nation. Chris, I'm getting a little taste of what it is like to be at the Capitol after session concludes, like I was last year. The Capitol is completely empty this afternoon because the annual charity softball tournament began about an hour or two ago. And so everybody has completely vacated the Capitol. Chris, I could run up and down the hallways yelling and screaming, and no one would do anything about it.
So is this one of the few times during the legislative session where we'll see a little bipartisanship with the Democrats and Republicans playing each other and everyone having great fun on this beautiful spring day?
This is maybe one of those days, Chris. In fact, several of the teams, so it's basically left up to the legislators, the staffers, and the lobbyists to create their own teams. There's rules around, which mix of who can be on. They have to be co-ed. But yes, some of the teams actually are bipartisan within themselves.
Oh.
You'll have teams where Democrats and Republicans, Chris, it's all about winning, right?
Yeah.
And so the gangs will go out there and they'll try to recruit the best former high school and college players. There's quite a few athletes running around the Capitol, and everybody tries to put together their best teams. I believe State Senator Nick Schroer, whose office I'm sitting in right now at the Capitol, is playing on our Secretary of State's team, Denny Hoskins, and their name, I saw the jerseys before they all left, Denny's Destroyers. So they're going to be a pretty good team because Denny Hoskins is a very athletic guy. He runs marathons and stuff now, and Senator Schroer's no slouch either.
And, of course, most of these games are for charity. Is there a charity that is associated with this softball game?
Yeah, every year the annual legislative softball tournament is for charity. The teams have to raise and contribute a certain amount of money. I do not know what the charity of choice is this year. I'm sure I could find out tomorrow when everybody comes back in dragging and hopefully not having too many pulled hamstrings and turf toes. It's so funny, Chris, because everybody now is in a different stage of life, right? And a lot of former athletes may not be as in shape as they were back in their days. And you can always tell who played on the teams on Wednesday morning because you'll see ice packs and limping and hopefully not any crutches. But They have a good time. They got a beautiful day up here. I don't think the storms that were predicted are going to happen, so hopefully they'll get all the games in. And then, Chris, they'll be back in action tomorrow. I'm hearing that tomorrow will be a big day at the Capitol and that they are going to, in honor of Tax Day, going to trot out the Governor Kehoe #1 priority of the session, the HJR, the House Joint Resolution to cut and eventually eliminate Missouri's income tax. So I'm hearing that's going to get a walk around the park tomorrow on the Senate floor. And we'll see how dedicated Democrats are to filibustering that, or whether or not there can be some sort of consensus to moving that bill another step forward.
And April 15th, of course, is Tax Day, and that is a great day to talk about that. You know, we were doing the show yesterday, and there was an event at the White House where the DoorDash grandma delivered some McDonald's to the president. The president had a short press conference afterwards. You know, it was very interesting that this lady, she didn't want anything to do with politics. The president, asked her, hey, you don't support women or men being in girls' sports, right? And she was like, I'm here for talk about taxes. And the president asked her too. He's like, you voted for me, right? And she said, maybe. And I think she is. I think she is a Trump supporter, but she said afterwards that who she votes for is a personal thing between her and God. She doesn't even discuss politics with her husband. So I was very impressed that that she stayed out of politics. Could have been easy for her to wade into it. And I was kind of impressed that someone that's not a political animal saw that, hey, this is not something that I definitely want to get into. I'm going to stay out of that. But April 15th, of course, people are going to start receiving their tax refunds with the big, beautiful bill, no taxes on tips. And we've heard that the annual return for some folks is $3,000 to $3,500 a check. And so the administration, of course, is hoping that with all of the affordability issues currently surrounding the country, that this little extra bit of income that for some may have been unexpected may help alleviate some of that pain.
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill that are just now starting to kick in and be fully implemented. Many predicting that we're going to start seeing that in the GDP numbers over the next few months, which would be great and just in time for the midterms. And I don't blame this wonderful lady for not wanting to expose her political philosophy because, Chris, the left is so vicious these days. She risks getting targeted and canceled and attacked on social media. So I don't blame her for wanting to keep that quiet. I saw a story, big story came out today, yet another vestige of the Biden administration that Biden's DOJ basically went after. This is another thing that's been being proven. Biden's DOJ went after tracking and prosecuting people who were well known in the pro-life community. I mean, talk about weaponizing politics and justice in our country.
And we saw an example of that during the Biden administration when they were targeting Catholic masses that were in Latin, that supposedly that meant that these were extremists and they were surveilling churches because church Catholic masses were in Latin. That was a very terrible thing. And I'm glad that Kash Patel there in the FBI is exposing how the Biden administration was anti-religious, anti-right when it comes to Christianity, and that's something that needs to be exposed. Yesterday during the show, we were able to report live that Eric Swalwell, the California congressman, who was also the leading contender to win the primary there in California to be the governor, he resigned yesterday. And Tim, about a few minutes after we got off the air, Representative Tony Gonzalez, he announced his resignation. It wasn't immediate. He has not put a date yet on when he is going to leave the House, but they're starting to fall like dominoes. And Joey's got Cut 5 talking about that.
Republican Representative Tony Gonzalez announced today he will step down from Congress amid scandal. The Texas Republican said on social media he plans to submit his resignation tomorrow, writing, "There is a season for everything, and God has a plan for us all." Gonzalez has been under House Ethics Committee investigation over a relationship with a former senior aide. He previously acknowledged the affair and ended his re-election bid. That staffer later died by suicide. His resignation comes just days before a potential House vote that could have removed him from office.
And then there are two more congressmen that could potentially be on their way out. That is Shirley Sherfilis McCormick, I think that's her last name, from Florida. We talked about her last week with Bob Onder, how she stole $5 million of pandemic money, used it to buy a diamond ring, used it for straw donors for her campaign. She was found guilty in a House Ethics Committee hearing a couple of weeks ago. And I think his name is Corey Allen. I think that's his name. He is on the chopping block.
Mills.
Corey Mills, yes. He is possibly on his way out as well. We talked with Susie Moore yesterday about that. She didn't know exactly why he was being investigated. I didn't either, and I looked into it a little bit. He is being accused of assaulting a woman at his house, Tim. So, boy, yeah. Congress and assaulting women and raping and victimizing women seems to be almost an epidemic there.
This culture is in desperate need of cleanup, and that's probably the biggest understatement I've made this year. I mean, it sounds absolutely disgusting. And as you predicted yesterday, Eric Swalwell's problems are just beginning. No, he's no longer running for California governor. No, he's no longer going to be in Congress, but it seems like his problems are just beginning. This one of the victims, Chris, apparently there's four victims. And just remember, Eric Swalwell was not a backbencher. Eric Swalwell was one of the Democrats' chief attack dogs, huge enemy of Donald Trump. This guy, if people are not familiar with him, we saw him every week on the Sunday morning talk shows. A very tearful Lana Drews stepped forward over the last 24 hours and said in a press conference that Eric Swalwell drugged, raped, and choked her. And the quote was, "I thought I had died." I mean, how disgusting. And these are supposed to be the best and brightest among us, serving as one of our 435 representatives in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, and it's just another example of, these people, they go to Washington, D.C., they get their congressional pin, they're called the honorable and congressman and congresswoman, and it seems that it completely goes through their head, Tim, and they feel that they can do anything that they want. I mean, we're seeing all of these stories where these Congress people are having affairs with their interns, and that is not their interns, with their staff, which is a congressional rule that you cannot do that. But, you'll hear people that'll say, well, why didn't these women stop them? Why didn't they say anything? Well, that's your boss.
It's an imbalance of power.
It's a complete imbalance of power. That's your boss. He has basically your future in your hand, and what do? You submit in a sense. So I'm glad that these allegations have come out against Swalwell. As you said, he was one of the biggest attack dogs against President Trump in his first term and here in the second term. And I just find it really ironic that he was one of the main accusers of President Trump when they were using all the lawfare against him, trying to accuse him of sexual assault and sexual misdeeds. It's funny how karma comes around and eventually gets you when you're doing the exact same thing.
Yeah, Chris, I learned the legalities of, not because I engaged in anything, but in law school, when I was doing moot court, when I was doing people would practice trial competitions, right? Trial competitions in law school. I did a ton of civil, I did a ton of criminal ones, and I did a couple civil ones. And I'll never forget the civil case. I learned as a law student what sexual harassment quid pro quo is. And we just talked about it. When you are in a employer, not even employer employee, when you are in a place of employment, and when you are in that place and you are higher than another person, you cannot have a sexual relationship with them. Doesn't matter if it's consensual, because you're in a higher position, right? Manager over supervisee. And it is like in the law, we say that's like ipso facto harassment, because the person below you is automatically pressured to just consent to whatever you're wanting because they view you as their superior. And so it's impermissible. And as you said, these Congress people, they should know better, because you don't just wake up one day and pop up in Congress. You usually come from a position where, you have some life experience, and you should know that you should not be ignorant of these things, I guess is what I'm basically saying.
And I can tell you, when I worked for UPS about 30 years ago, when I went into management, they had a strict rule at UPS that you could not date Mary or anybody that was part of the Teamsters Union that was not in management. That was something that was strictly enforced, and there were many people that were fired as management when it was found out that you had engaged with any type of relationship with a subordinate. That was 30 years ago, and you see now what's happening in Congress that maybe they should have taken that same advice. All right, we've got a huge show coming up. Our good friend David Stokes will not be with us today, but Dr. Susan Pendergrass, she's the Director of Research for Show Me Institute. She will be taking his place. We'll talk about their new Missouri school rankings, and we'll also talk about some of the legislation that is going through the Capitol right now regarding education. Chris's Corner, we will talk about, I watched the Sunday shows on yesterday or Monday or Sunday, and it was just absolutely amazing. I'll tell you what amazed me at 4:45. 5:06, we will have the Speaker's stump speech.
Chris, we have a very special guest today. As I said, the Capitol is completely emptied out, but I found a very intrepid, hardworking lobbyist, good friend of mine for a long time, David Jackson. He started off, Chris, as a very young intern in this building when he was a teenager, our college student at Westminster, and he's never left the place. And he's got more experience than most of the folks in the building. He is working on the tax cut plan. He's also working on some medical issues for some of his clients. And he's a big fan of our show and said he'd always love to come on if we had a spot for him. And so today, when the Capitol is otherwise empty, I snagged David Jackson. Don't tell him that when he comes on the show.
And, when my good friend Sherman Parker went into the legislature in 2002, 2003, I met David Jackson. He is quite a character, and I am looking forward to speaking with him at 5:06 during the Speaker's stump speech. 5:23, we'll have our good friend Dr. Randy Tobler. We'll talk to him about all of the big news of the day. Part of that is vaccines are back in the news. We'll ask him about that. And at the end of the show, my sheet here somewhere. I can't find it. I'll tell you what it is later during the show. So you're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL, number one for live and local conservative talk.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind, the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty.
The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
Well, today definitely feels like swimming pool season, doesn't it? Well, you know what? It's actually the actual season, and it's not that far away. I mean, about 6 weeks from now, I believe, will be Memorial Day weekend, the official opening of the pools. Many of you who have pools will be opening them up before then, especially if these temperatures hold. We've got the one-stop shop for you to get those pools ready for this next swimming pool season. That would be Jones Air and Water. So excited to have Everett, Austin, the whole gang at Jones Air and Water back on the air with us. JonesWater.com, your one-stop shop for all your air and water cleaning needs. The EcoSmart system that Jones Air and Water can supply for you is check this out. I know this is too good to be true, but it is. Trust me. Everett's been talking about this for a long time. Salt-free, chemical-free, acid-free. Yes, and it does clean your pool better than dumping a bunch of chemicals and chlorine in there. It is not too good to be true. I want you to get a hold of Jones Water. Try it out for this swimming pool season. Your skin, your eyes, maybe even your lungs will thank you for it, because you'll be putting stuff in the pool that's so much better for you than a bunch of salt, chemicals, and acidity. Yep, that's the EcoSmart system from Jones Air and Water. They've also got the Hydrotech whole house water filtering and softening system. They've got the under sink filtration systems, those reverse osmosis systems. We have one of those. Delivers an endless supply of clean, pure, delicious water, foundation for any good diet. Yep, that's part of your diet too, and so much more. We love the systems that we put into our Jones home. We've got the whole home dehumidifier. That's a great product, very affordable, and it has made a huge difference in our home. Our air conditioning system works a lot less harder. It doesn't run as much. It feels drier in the house, especially when we hit those 90 to 100% humidity days here in the heartland. We've got that drinking system at our kitchen sink. We've got the double tank Hydrotech H2O system to keep all the water in a home clean. It has been incredibly affordable, incredibly reasonable, easy to maintain, and you get service with a smile. For all of those incredible products and more, I want you to visit joneswater.com. That's joneswater.com.
Chris Arps here, and after Becky and I leave church on Sunday, we head down the street to Capriotti's to grab a classic meatball sub. And of course, for dessert, I get a giant chocolate chip cookie. I love Capriotti's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
Ready for instant curb appeal that comes with a 25-year transferable warranty? Call Rhino Shield today. We do brick, block, stucco, asbestos, aluminum, steel, cedar, and more. Over the past 20 years, we've done thousands of homes, businesses, churches, schools, condos, parking garages, large metal buildings, and strip malls, from Champaign to the Lake of the Ozarks. We do flat and sloped metal roofs to extend their lives too. Proud to be veteran-owned and manufactured in the good old USA. So we're tariff-free. We're exceeding expectations every day. Evaluations are free. A+ rated with the BBB and a lot of 5-star Google reviews. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
Missouri senators are considering the governor's plan to simplify the way schools are assessed, changing it to a scale any student is familiar with, A through F grading. Putting schools on a report card Missouri families can read at a glance. Under this plan, every school in Missouri would receive a letter grade based on state testing scores, and those would be published each year. The governor announced this plan during his State of the State address in January. It passed the Missouri House, but it's not getting a warm welcome in the Missouri Senate.
428 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, and on the line with us is Dr. Susan Pendergrass. She's Director of Research at the Show Me Institute. Dr. Pendergrass, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Can't complain. Beautiful spring day, isn't it?
Yeah, so nice.
All right. The Show Me Institute has updated your Missouri school rankings thing that you have. We've talked to you many times about that over the years. What is new about the Missouri school rankings now?
Yeah, as you were just mentioning, the governor signed an executive order that the state's going to put a letter grade on every school and district. But Show Me Institute at our website, mostschoolrankings.org, we have also put a letter grade on every school and district in the state based on academic performance. And our letter grades are based on the same numbers that the DESE letter grades will be based on. And we've always had, for 6 years now, we've had a GPA for every school and district. We just took that GPA and turned it into a letter grade.
Dr. Susan, have you checked out this bill that's pending in the Missouri legislature? What do you think about it? Is it helpful? Is it not? How does it compare with what the Show Me Institute has at mostschoolrankings.org?
Yeah, I mean, it's gone through some changes. Whether it passes or doesn't pass doesn't really matter at this point because the executive order would override it. The executive order exists, so the state is putting letter grades on every school and district. They have until June to figure it out, and I think we'll see them by August or September. So that's happening. The bill in the Senate is just the legislature saying, here's how we would like to do that. But if they don't get it passed, then we'll just go with the executive order. And basically, they're going to look at schools' test grades on the MAP test, grades on the growth scores, and ACT graduation rates, the same things that we use in our letter grades. There's only so many academic performance indicators for every school and district. So same numbers, but it's happening regardless of what the Senate decides to do. And to be honest, I think the legislature should maybe give it a year because once the governor's executive order goes into effect and we see what the letter grades are for every school and district, I'm thinking that there's going to be a lot of conversation around that. People who think their kids are in an A school might find out that they're in a C school, and somebody who thinks their kids are in a C school might be an F school. So let's see how DESE does these letter grades, and then next legislative session, we can see if it needs to be tweaked or if there should be a law that overrides the executive order.
Dr. Pendergrass, how does the Show Me Institute calculate these new A through F grades, and what do the new rankings reveal that would surprise Missouri parents?
Yeah, so we calculate it with the MAP scores on English and math that the kids take every spring, ACT graduation rates. There is a growth model that DESE developed with some very smart people at the University of Missouri. They release a growth score for every school. We use that too. And then we look at MAP scores for just low-income kids specifically. We have a blog up on our website about the 24 districts that got A's. And, some of them are what you would expect. You've got Brentwood and Ladue and Clayton on there. But there's also a district, Richwoods, that's 100% low-income students as measured by the lunch program. And they also got an A. So it isn't exactly what you would expect. Out of the 550 or so districts and charter schools, about 25 got A's, 24, I think, got A's. Another 24, 25 got F's. But a lot of them are right in the middle with C's. I think that our grades will be very similar to the DESE grades because they're using the same underlying, test scores. But it's just going to be a matter of what their recipe is, like if they give more emphasis to proficiency or more emphasis to growth. Ours are all equally weighted, so it's going to be really interested to see. But folks just should know that if you have a school that you care about, you will be seeing a letter grade from the state by this fall.
Dr. Pendergrass, I think a lot of our listeners are wondering, are we seeing any progress in Missouri? We have tried to institute some accountability measures. The legislature has passed some school choice measures. We're nowhere near as robust as Florida or some other states, but we do have some charter schools. We just started an education savings account program that the governor has been really intent on funding at higher levels. So are we seeing any progress in Missouri with improvement? We spend billions, literally billions of taxpayer dollars every year in Missouri on public education. Are we getting our money's worth?
Well, the short answer, unfortunately, is not really. You mentioned two programs, charter schools really just in the St. Louis and Kansas City areas. The Education Scholarship Account Program, about 6,000, definitely fewer than 10,000 Missouri kids have those scholarships out of 850,000. But when you look at the Missouri test scores overall, we have not caught back up to pre-COVID numbers. We are sliding compared to other states. Some of our scores, like third grade reading and fourth grade reading, are really, really troubling for the future of our state. 40% maybe of our fourth graders scored basically below the literate level, like they're not able to read at all. And these don't look promising for the future. So when these letter grades come out from the state, we're going to see how the folks react to it. Do we use this as a chance to have difficult conversations and figure out where we need to improve? I would say that our site already provides some of that information, but I think the key is to use it once we have it to identify, maybe there's a high-performing school next to a low-performing school, and maybe they could talk to each other, or maybe some of the low-performing districts are clumped in a certain area and we can focus there. So this is all about transparency. Parents generally know if their kids go to an A school or certainly if they go to an F school. And this is going to be about transparency and starting those conversations. And as you mentioned, we're really behind when it comes to school choice, but I'm guessing that the parents who find out their kids are in an F school are going to start asking for some other options.
Speaking with Dr. Susan Pendergrass, Director of Research at the Show Me Institute. Dr. Pendergrass, I live right across the street from a middle school, and I saw on the little billboard that's outside the school is that map testing starts next week, where the students will be taking a bunch of tests for an entire week. And does that really give us a real assessment of how these students are doing? Because you hear allegations that a lot of time these school districts and these teachers are just teaching to the test.
Yeah, I think we have a good test. I think the MAP test is a good test. It's, again, developed by some very smart economists and statisticians at Mizzou, and it's a good test. And kids take it in English, language arts, math, science, and social studies, and it does give us a good idea of how well those schools are teaching the kids. I don't know that the teaching to the test and the kill and drill is as much of an issue with folks as it used to be during No Child Left Behind. But it's important to remember that this is the main job of our schools, is to have kids leave our public school system either ready for college or for career, ready for what's next. And they need to be able to be good, solid readers. And they need to be able to do math. And unfortunately, we're not really hitting those marks. Our college readiness, our career readiness, and our basic literacy and numeracy are not hitting the mark. So this is the best information we have. The kids will take those tests. We should get those test scores ideally back within a few months, and then we'll know how those schools and those teachers are doing. And it's important to know. It's important for it to be transparent and for us to know so that we can, what George Bush say, if you don't measure it, you can't fix it. So we need to measure it so that we can fix it.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Pendergrass, have you been looking at all at the effort? It's been kind of quiet, but I know it's percolating up here at the Capitol regarding the school foundation funding formula. I believe the foundation formula has not been effectively revamped since before I was in the legislature, which is like the Stone Ages of like 2002 was, I think, the last time that they looked at that. It's got to be completely out of whack at this point, I would guess. And I imagine it's going to take a lot of work and even a heavier lift to get a massive overhaul through the legislature someday whenever they decide to tackle it.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult because the foundation formula we have right now uses property values from 2005, so 20 years ago, before the Great Recession, before COVID, 2005. And that determines how much the local districts have to contribute to what the state says they need to spend on their kids. And I think we're going to have some real pushback because I'm going to guess that if they have a new funding formula, it's going to use property values from now and not from 21 years ago. So some districts will benefit and some will not. And, there's no perfect system where nobody loses anything. But at the same time, we have fewer kids now than we had back then. We used to have almost 950,000 students. Now we have about 850,000. There's good reason to believe that we're going down to about 750,000. And so we are in a declining enrollment situation. We cannot always give more to the foundation formula as some folks would like. And we're going to have to start figuring out a way. And it's like you said, it's going to take a long time to get this passed because there's going to be a lot of hard feelings. But we need to fund the schools and the kids we have, and we need to set up a system that's fair for the contribution from the local districts and fair for the kind of kids that each district is serving. And we need to, have it be student-centered and ideally follow the child to the school of their choice. But there's a lot of work to be done. I don't think it's going to happen this summer. I think it's going to be years.
Dr. Pendergrass, there was some good news on the education reform front. The Missouri State Board of Education approved a STEM charter school for Columbia, but the Columbia school sued the state, saying that it was unconstitutional because it only expanded into Boone County and targets a single county. Your thoughts on that?
Sure, let's do all counties. Absolutely. Let's have them statewide, of course. So we have a proven model in Frontier charter schools that's going to open in Columbia and give kids in that city the option. No one's forced. The option to attend that school and to leave their assigned Columbia public school. And there's a second charter in the works there that's basically for recovery, like potential dropout students. And I think these are the kinds of things that the charter school movement in general has developed, like options for parents for whom the assigned public school doesn't seem to be working. And if parents in Columbia want to send their child to these schools, they should be allowed to do so. The pushback is confusing to me. If CPS 93 thinks that they are doing such a great job that no parent would want this charter school, then the schools wouldn't fill seats. So they're trying to stop it. They're trying to keep parents from having choices. But I think in the end, the charter schools are going to prevail.
And Dr. Pendergrass, one of the major priorities that Governor Kehoe mentioned, I believe in his first State of the State, he mentioned 3 major priorities he really wanted to get a handle on during his first term as governor. That had to do with law and order, the crime situation, mainly in our urban and suburban areas. He wanted to tackle our income tax system, and he specifically mentioned education, school choice. Do you think it's high time that we get on this? And it sounds like the governor might be looking at potentially being, I don't know, I think we would be the 15th or 16th state maybe if it gets proposed next year to move to a universal school choice model. What say you as to all that?
Yeah, we have it to our north in Iowa. We have it to our south in Oklahoma. We have parents can pick either public or private, and their public dollars follow their kids. Kansas, you can pick any public school for sure. Arkansas, very strong universal school choice program. So we're surrounded by it. I was talking to a demographer from St. Louis University today and basically hit these 3 things. We need young people to come to Missouri and to choose to stay and raise their kids here. We have fewer babies being born than ever. We're going to have smaller and smaller kindergarten classrooms. We need to do something to appeal to young people as they come out of college to come to Missouri and have their careers here and raise their families here because of the things you just mentioned. Crime is a problem. The income tax structure right now isn't favorable for that. And we have no school choice. And parents want that. And parents will simply go to a border state instead of coming to Missouri. So it's very important. The governor has really identified 3 very important priorities, and I hope that we make it happen.
That is Dr. Susan Pendergrass, Director of Research, ShowMeInstitute.org, and on X, Spendergrass for Dr. Pendergrass. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
4:43 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Chris's Corner, when Democrats sound like Havana's PR team. I'll tell you more on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind, the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
Let me tell you about something I generally use. That's Royal Banks of Missouri's interactive teller machines, or their ITMs. Think of them as a branch without the lobby. You pull up, and instead of just pushing buttons on an ATM, you're actually talking live with a real Royal Banks teller on video and audio. Same service you'd get inside, just without getting out of your car. That's why I use them. They're quick, they're easy, and they're still personal. I can deposit or withdraw cash. I can make loan payments, cash checks, move money. And if I have a question, I'm talking to an actual human being, not a screen prompt. Here's the real advantage, though, the hours. Weekdays, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 9 to 2. If you don't live your life between 9 and 5, that matters. I've been a loyal customer of Royal Banks of Missouri for more than 20 years because they've always understood that convenience isn't a luxury, it's part of good service. 16 locations across St. Louis, one near you in St. Charles, Illinois, and Northeast Missouri. They're locally owned, independently run, and invested right here. You can learn more at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com, Royal Banks of Missouri, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Dude, this house is perfect. Crumbs everywhere, sticky counters. I've already texted the colonies.
Sweet, I'll bring my 500 cousins. This'll be the biggest ant rager of the summer.
Let's party! Wait, what's that sound? Oh, no, it's those trucks with the green wheels. Party's over, man. Party's over.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. We'd love to help you out. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 636-486-7888.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
One of the most bizarre story behind the story. Two St. Louisans plot to steal a nuclear sub.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. Chris's Corner, brought to you by Timothy's Restaurant at 12710 Olive in Creve Coeur. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Speaker Johnson, can I ask you about the president's post depicting himself as Jesus? Was it blasphemy?
I talked with the president about it as soon as I saw it, and told him that I don't think it was being received in the same way he intended it. He agreed, and he pulled it down. That was the right thing to do. He explained how he saw that, and I don't think he thought it was sacrilegious at all. So,
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
When Democrats sound like Havana's PR team. I watched Meet the Press over the weekend, and what struck me wasn't just what Congressman Pramila Jayapal said about Cuba. It's how both she and the moderator, Kristen Welker, framed the conversation in a way that seemed more accommodating to the Cuban regime than to the cause of liberty. Jayapal had just returned from Cuba and was asked whether Cuba should release its political prisoners and move toward free elections before relations normalize with the United States. To her credit, she said yes, Cuba should release political prisoners, and she said she has raised that directly with the Cuban government. Kristen Welker responded later, by raising doubts about whether any of those individuals were truly political prisoners at all, suggesting skepticism over whether the people being discussed should even be considered political prisoners rather than just common criminals. But instead of focusing on whether the Cuban regime is honestly reforming, rather than pressing on whether Havana is fulfilling its obligations, the conversation instead shifted toward questioning the legitimacy of the prisoners themselves. Instead of keeping the focus squarely on the brutality of the communist regime, Jayapal pivoted into talking about Cuba's frustrations, Cuba's sovereignty, and America needing to negotiate with the regime. Think about what that framing does. That framing, intentional or not, has the effect of muddying the waters and softening the focus on Cuba's repression. And throughout the interview, Jayapal's strongest language was not reserved for the communist dictatorship, it was reserved for the United States. She called American sanctions economic bombing. She called U.S. pressure cruel. She criticized America's Cuba policy more aggressively than she criticized Cuba's repression. She said that it is not America's place to determine who leads another country. No one is saying America should choose Cuba's leaders. What we are saying is this: America should not normalize relations with a communist dictatorship while that dictatorship jails dissidents, suppresses opposition, bans free elections, and denies basic liberty. That's not interference, that is principle. Notice what was missing from this interview. No sustained outrage over communist oppression, no passionate defense of dissidents, no insistence that freedom must come before diplomacy. Instead, the tone of the conversation suggested America's pressure campaign may be more problematic than Cuba's tyranny. That tells you everything. Too often, the modern left seems more suspicious of American leverage than of foreign authoritarianism. Let's make it this simple. If Cuba wants normalization, release real political prisoners, legalize opposition parties, hold free elections, allow free speech, and a free press. Until then, any American politician or media figure who spends more time scrutinizing America's pressure on Cuba than Cuba's repression of its own people is helping shift focus away from the real villain in the story. And that makes them sound less like defenders of democracy and more like Havana's PR team. That is Chris's Corner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was an odd interview, Chris. And she's actually been called out a little bit by some of her peers.
She should.
The questioning was, I watched that interview too. I'm glad you reported on it. It was so softball-esque. I mean, it was pretty weak.
I mean, and prior to that, she had the Cuban president on, and I'll give Kristen Welker a little credit. She asked some tough questions. But when it came to Jayapal, who just returned from Cuba, I mean, she was just glowing about all of the things that we're doing to Cuba. And, you know, as I said in the Chris's Corner, but it was economic bombing, what we were doing to them. And she also mentioned how this is the longest economic embargo in the nation's in the country's history. But it was nothing about how they're treating their people. It was all our fault. And, these people are just exposing who they are. They are not America first. They hate their country, I believe, inwardly. And they're traitors from within. I truly do believe that her and the Congressman Ilhan and Cori Bush, when she was in Congress, all of them have a disdain for their country. And unfortunately, they found a willing participant in it going on Meet the Press last Sunday.
Yeah, why is it that when these leftist, left-leaning reporters and networks sit down with these known totalitarian, socialist, communist regimes, they're supposed to be praised as, oh, how brave and how courageous are they? And, oh, good job landing that interview. But anytime a conservative person or a conservative or a center-right network sits down, could be with the same exact person or someone like Xi or Putin or something like that, the conservative reporter, the center-right network gets castigated, and attacked for how dare they do that. It's like, why is one okay and the other is not? I mean, that is the upside-down world in which we often find ourselves.
And it gave a completely skewed perspective, because if you ask the Cubans that are living in Miami and living in South Florida, they are behind 100% this economic embargo. They want that Cuban regime gone so they can go back and visit their relatives, visit their homeland. They do not take the position of Congressman Jayapal at all. They're on the exact opposite of what she believes. And, I think the people that deal with that repression, who have family back there, have way more credibility than some leftist, socialist, communist congressperson over there visiting, basically being their PR organ here in the United States, using our media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, next thing we know, Chris, Kristen Welker is going to win a Nobel Prize, Peace Prize, or an Emmy or whatever the heck it is they give, a broadcast award or something, for her brave, courageous interview with the Cuban dictator president, the president for life,
Tim, our whole St. Louis County government is getting crazier and crazier. We've reported on the councilwoman who's having fights in the gym with other women. We have Sam Page trying to resurrect Better Together to bring the city and the county back together again. You've got a councilwoman that is trying to split the black vote by running against Brian Williams and Zimmerman, so that Zimmerman can win. She had on her Facebook page where she supported Zimmerman. She's taken those things down from her page, of course. But the latest craziness in St. Louis County is apparently Sam Page is going to London, England here soon. Really? I'm sure he's claiming it's the economic trip to help bring back business for St. Louis County. But he wants Rita Days, who is the council chair, to sign a letter, Tim, pledging not to exercise certain authorities while he is gone, such as signing legislation, filling county jobs, or declaring emergencies, or issuing executive orders. He's afraid that once he's gone, that they'll do a bunch of things that he doesn't want. And keep in mind, these are Democrats that are fighting against each other like this. This is just silly. We're the largest county in Missouri, the most economically powerful county, and we have just silly things like this where Sam Page doesn't want to leave because he feels that things are going to be done without him.
Mm-hmm. I would tell Sam Page to go pound sand and say, look, either go on your trip or don't. I don't care. And I think that's what Rita Days should do. And you know what, Chris? Knowing Rita Days like I do, she might just say that to him, And
this is not just, he didn't just ask her to sign a letter, Tim. He has filed a lawsuit to stop Rita Days and the county from signing any type of legislation, which accordingly, state law says that once a executive is out of the country or can't function, that the county chair basically takes over his responsibilities. So he has filed a lawsuit to stop that. He's out.
Yeah, Chris, is he trying to leave office as the most insufferable jerk to have ever held that spot? He's trying really hard for that moniker, isn't he?
It sounds like it. But, I always like watching a little Democratic infighting. They're both Democrats. Sure. But this just makes St. Louis County and St. Louis County government just look foolish to me.
Different
like
level.
We don't have our act together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Speaker Stump Speech coming up. You have a special guest.
Yeah, we're going to welcome David Jackson to the party. Chris, you've known him well for many years as well. He's intrepid lobbyist here, working on the tax cut legislation, some issues involving the Mizzou healthcare system, and more.
And at 5:23, we'll speak with Dr. Randy Tobler. He is, of course, the host of the Randy Tobler Show here on Saturday mornings. We'll ask him about vaccines. We'll ask him about what's going on with the Iran war. A lot to catch up with him about. You are listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-345-2789. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-345-2789. That's 800-345-2789. For $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with, call Big Lou at 800-345-2789.
Tired of settling for generic fishing gear? Say hello to Bullseye Bait and Tackle, O'Fallon's one-stop shop for serious anglers. Live bait, premium tackle, rods, reels, and an unbeatable selection of lures from top brands like Megabass, Zoom, and Berkley. Whether you're after bass, catfish, crappie, or bluegill, they've got the gear to help you land the big one. Plus, their expert team, led by Mark and Liz, provides rod and reel repair services. Bullseye Bait and Tackle, 266 Fort Zumwalt Square, or at bullseyebaitandtackle.net.
Producer Joey V from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show here, reminding you, don't waste a buck on movies that suck. Tune in to Joey V's Movies Fridays at 5:45 for reviews you can trust. Brought to you by Harry J. Steakhouse in Moscow Mills.
This is News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Lebanon and Israel have held direct diplomatic talks for the first time in decades. Tuesday's more than 2-hour meeting at the State Department came after more than a month of conflict between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar says there's one major topic in the talks with Lebanon.
Israel and Lebanon don't have any major disputes between them. The problem is Hezbollah, and this is the problem we must address.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio called the talks a historic opportunity, while Israel's ambassador to the U.S. hailed what he called a convergence of opinion about removing Hezbollah's influence from Lebanon. There was a strong earthquake in Nevada last night.
A magnitude 5.7 earthquake struck a rural part of Nevada just before 6:30 p.m. Monday night. The epicenter was about 13 miles east of the town of Silver Springs, rattling residents, knocking merchandise off store shelves. Resident Tyra Fuller.
It was pretty bad. I thought the house was going to bounce off the foundation.
Tyra says she's not new to earthquakes.
I'm originally from Southern Cal, and we get rollers down there for the most part. This wasn't a roller, this was a bounce.
While the shaking only lasted about 20 seconds.
This was a complete shock.
Sound courtesy, Colo News, Nevada. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Diplomats are working through back channels to arrange a new round of talks between the United States and Iran. As Washington enacted its blockade of Iranian ports, Tehran threatened to retaliate by striking targets across the war-weary region. On Wall Street, the Dow up by 317 points, the Nasdaq rose 455, the S&P 500 advanced 81. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, Flo here to say that Progressive knows that life can change quickly, so it's good to have flexible coverage.
Oh, like when I have to take my ex off my policy.
Oh, sorry. But yes, we can do that.
And can you send them a message and tell them that they have trust issues that they need to work on?
We don't really get in the middle of these conflicts.
Also, can you let them know that I was faking interest in his band and it's probably time to grow up?
I'm not going to do it. Just know that with Progressive, you can easily make changes to your auto insurance because we know life changes.
Also, I'm staying in touch with his mom because she's absolutely lovely.
Bad idea.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, when pests invade your home, you need someone you can trust. It's Jamie Allman here, and at Buckingham Pest Control, they're not just your exterminators, they're your neighbors and friends. A locally owned family business and St. Louis Magazine A-List award winner, providing affordable, quality pest control. Plus, they offer energy-efficient TAP attic insulation, the only insulation that controls pests. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
Craving seafood but worried it'll be too spicy or break the bank? La Juicy Seafood in O'Fallon has you covered. They're not your typical seafood joint. Choose from 5 spice levels, including not spicy, so everyone can enjoy our famous Cajun boils. Bring the family, doodle on the tables, enjoy the full bar with legendary margaritas, and feel right at home. La Juicy Seafood, 373 Winding Woods Drive, O'Fallon. Call 696-924-9171.
Free speech is alive and well in America right here.
It's about time somebody stood up for true American values.
What this country needs is some backbone.
Finally, a president who wants to make real change.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
All of the things that the Democrats made this about, which was supposed to be about reforms to the way that ICE and CBP operate, they got none of that. Zero. And now we're going to fund those agencies for 3 years into the future. The only thing the Democrats got out of this was they now own the issue of open borders and defund law enforcement. Honestly, I don't know what else they walk away from with this.
5:06, and welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon outside in St. Louis, and I'm sure it's equally beautiful in Jefferson City. And Tim, I think you have an old friend of both of ours with you there in the Jefferson City Bureau.
I do indeed, and he will be the subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Chris, we always like to feature folks who are right in the middle of the melee up here in Jefferson City. And this young man, he may not think he's a young man anymore, but I always think of him that because I met him a long time ago. David Jackson is one of the intrepid members of the Government Affairs Corps up here. Started in this building, David, I believe, when you were 12 years old.
19, but close.
Okay. And you haven't ever left the place, you know?
It keeps me trapped.
It does indeed. So, Chris, David is involved in one of the epic battles this year, and that is the governor's call to reform, update, modernize, and continue to step down and eventually hopefully eliminate our income tax system. David works with a great company called Gamble and Schlemeyer. He's one of the principals there. Got a lot of awesome clients of his own. He works with on a lot of medical and healthcare issues. And when everybody fled the building earlier, it was tough to find somebody. David decided he wasn't going to pull any hamstrings today, so he's not currently playing softball. Are you playing later today? Or
No.
Okay.
I decided, it's funny. Whenever I started and I was 19 down here, I used to get heavily recruited to play on softball teams. And then throughout my 20s and then as I got into my 30s, the asks started going away and I started asking to play. Now I don't want to risk tearing an ACL and hurt my golf game.
Yeah, that's a great point indeed. David and I have hit the ball around the lengths of field a little bit. David, I'll kick us off. The tax cut battle. We're hearing that in honor of Tax Day, that this bill, which the HJR, House Joint Resolution, which will go before the people if it passes the legislature, successfully passed the House with nearly 100 votes. It has been pending in the Senate for several weeks, and we're hearing that because Tax Day is this week and the bill is ready in the Senate, that they're going to bring it up tomorrow for its first walk around the park, as we say. How do you, I know there's been some additional changes. Tell us a little bit about why this effort you've been working on tax policy forever. Why is this effort important that the governor has announced this year that the legislature needs to pursue?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And thanks for having me on. I think, throughout the last 19 years or so, working in this building, I've seen the legislature go and take a crack at reforming everything from our criminal code. We've seen stuff on Medicaid. We've seen stuff on every single type of statute and law that we have, but we haven't gone in to rewire our tax policy in our tax code. And that is the bedrock of our economy. And when you look at it, it blows my mind as I go out and I talk to corporate executives, or I was talking this weekend to actually a group of MBA students and guest lecturing, and I asked them, what do you think you have to make in Missouri to get taxed at your top income tax rate? And I heard, $1 million, 900,000, 90,000. And it blows people away when they see it's $9,000 that if you make $9,000 in Missouri, you get taxed at our top rate. And we have 8 brackets between $0 and $9,000 because they were set in 1917 and never adjusted for inflation. Our sales tax code was written in 1939. I think as the governor mentioned in his State of the State, we're running a blockbuster economy in a Netflix world.
Indeed. Chris?
David, we're starting to read in the media that a lot of business groups are lobbying against this tax reform. And Tim and I talked about this yesterday, that you would think that businesses would want their customers, consumers, to have more money in their pockets because that's more money they could spend with them. What are some of the reasons that you're finding that the business groups are lobbying against this?
I think that I would stop short of saying that the business groups are actively lobbying against this. I think there are some questions that are being put forward, by some of the business groups in trying to address, they want some certainty in things and trying, when you're rewiring your tax code, there's a lot of questions that need to be ironed out. There was, a very specific provision that, was changed in the House committee substitute, in the Senate committee substitute, addressing pass-through entities to make sure that anybody in an LLC or pass-through entity was also benefiting from that income tax repeal. And I think, I hear sometimes, well, we need more details. We need more details. Well, the reality is our Constitution is built to be a framework, and we can't put every single detail in the Constitution. It's just like building a house. You have an idea what your foundation is and what your floor plan is, but as we get more into the weeds and next year dig into the details with the statute, that's when you fill in the holes in your insulation and your paint colors and everything else as you're building that house. But ultimately, we know what the framework is. We know what the foundation is in terms of moving away from taxing what you earn and what you own with property taxes, income tax, and instead putting consumers in charge with a consumption tax.
Yeah, David, talk about what we're actually debating this year in the legislature versus what might come later. There's a lot of misinformation and maybe just a lot of confusion. It may just be innocent confusion about what the legislature is considering. Talk about what happens if this House Joint Resolution is passed by the legislature this year and then approved by the people of Missouri on the ballot this November.
I'm going to go back to a healthcare analogy. I would say that this is equivalent to we have a 92-year-old patient that is very sick, and that has been taking a variety of different medications and one-offs to try to get through. And we are now looking and saying we need to go in and do open heart surgery. And what this does this year in this constitutional amendment is ask voters, do you want to go in for surgery? And next year is that surgery. Next year is whenever we really get into the weeds and figuring out what that tax base looks like. But this is the permission slip to ask voters, do you want to move away from a system that taxes what you earn and what you own, and instead move towards a consumption-based tax and stop taxing income to, look, we have 100 years of data in laboratories of different states to see what works and what doesn't. We don't have to guess anymore. We know what kind of taxation results in what type of economic performance.
David, the Democrats are putting up a public front saying that would be a looming disaster for the state's finances if this was passed, but that's a public front. Do you find that there are some Democrats that are kind of amenable to this a little bit, and what tweaks would be needed to be put into this to maybe get some Democratic support, if any?
Yeah, we actually had a Democrat vote for this in the House. And there are multiple states. Missouri is not alone in doing this. And there are a lot of bipartisan votes going on in multiple states in regards to what this looks like. And I think some of the property tax pieces in there, I think, are very popular with some Democrats, and looking at how we can move away from taxing personal property and cars and real estate taxes and how that all works. Property taxes can be some of the most regressive taxes out there. And so, I think I always like to say too, you look at Tennessee or Washington State, for example. Washington State's a very blue state, but try passing an income tax there. They don't want it. And I think if you polled all the Democrats in Tennessee, they would equally say they don't want an income tax. And so, I think as we look at, I think there is a lot of receptiveness within the legislature and people that are open to the idea that we can't keep doing things the way we have.
David, talk about, let's say hypothetically, and this is probably a pure hypothetical because I believe the legislature will go back in the next year or two and do more work on the tax code. But David, let's say hypothetically, only this House joint resolution passes by the legislature, the people approve it, and then nothing else is done. My understanding is, as written, what would happen is this House joint resolution would put a mechanism in place to continue to ratchet down our income tax slowly but surely, like we've done over the last 10 years. And it would do that through increased revenue. So basically, it would start with the baseline of this year, and then only if revenue increases above an excess level would the income tax then continue to ratchet down. So there'd be no hole blown in the budget. There would be no massive, gigantic reform, whether people like that or not. But the income tax rate would continue to come down if nothing else was done. Now, I think there's going to be more done or more attempted to be done, but talk about that as to this phase one.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I want to address the Kansas piece head on, because people talk about how do we avoid being Kansas, and all that centers around triggers. And that's exactly what you're mentioning, Tim, in the way that our current tax cuts have been put in place. Back in 2014, Missouri passed the first income tax cut in over 100 years. And there was a guy who kind of looked like you. He didn't have his gray hair, but he's
a little younger.
He was speaker. But when Kansas acted, they didn't have any type of revenue replacement options. And they had an idea. And I think Missouri has had a plan and continues to have a plan. But when we passed in 2014, the first income tax cut in 100 years, Missouri was the first state in the country to put in revenue triggers that said, we are only going to cut whenever we have revenues coming in on the other side, to trigger those to make sure we have a stable budget. And now we've seen states all over the country that have mirrored Missouri's model with revenue triggers to cut income taxes. And this is version 3 or 4 of that we've built on, but we've already answered Kansas. The 2014 bill was the answer to Kansas, and we've continued to receive more revenue at lower rates. And so we were at 6% in 2014, and now we brought that rate down to 4.7%. And we're on pace right now under the state law to go to 4.5%. And so what this HJR does is basically remove that floor. And so if the legislature does nothing and this passes, well, as we continue to get more revenue in over time, as we can afford it, we will ratchet down that income tax down to zero. Now, what it also does is give the legislature the ability to modernize our tax code to accelerate those changes.
Right.
David, would you say to critics who say that if you look at the other 9 states that don't have personal state income taxes, that those states either have oil and gas or they have strong tourist industries?
So when you look at the 9 states with no income tax and you compare it to the 9 states with the highest income tax, those 9 states with no income tax are winning on every single economic measure. They have better population growth. They have better GDP growth. They have better wage growth. And I go back to standing still isn't an option. Missouri used to be 2% of national GDP. Now we're 1.5. We used to have 16 congressional seats. Now we have 8. St. Louis used to be 4th largest city in the country. And, now we're nowhere close. And so I think there are a lot of different factors here that point to we can't keep doing more of the same. But when you look at, I think Tennessee is a great example because Tennessee doesn't have an ocean. Tennessee doesn't have oil. In Missouri, if you go back in history, Missouri was right on par with Tennessee. In whenever we started implementing an income tax, Tennessee has steadily grown past us and now beats us in every economic measure.
Speaking with David Jackson, he's one of the government affairs specialists. That's what I call you guys up here at the Capitol. David, you work on a lot of different issues. Wanted to throw another one out to you that you mentioned is very interesting. I hadn't heard about this particular bill. That's no surprise because there's like 2,000 pieces of legislation right now bouncing between the chambers. You're working on an issue that I believe you're opposing for your clients, for your healthcare provider clients, that would grant the University of Missouri immunity from all antitrust laws in buying up rural hospitals. That just kind of sounds nefarious, but you tell me, what's that all about?
Yeah, so you have the University of Missouri healthcare system, and they're, for example, in Missouri or in Jefferson City, you have 2 hospitals. You have Capital Region and St. Mary's. St. Mary's is owned by SSM Healthcare based out of St. Louis, but Capital Region is owned by University of Missouri Healthcare. And there was an effort several years ago for about 5 years ago for the University of Missouri to purchase St. Mary's Hospital, which would give University of Missouri really a monopoly over healthcare in mid-Missouri. And so there's a big piece of opposition coming from, I represent Jefferson City Medical Group, which is an independent private practice physician group, as well as Ambulatory Surgery Center Association. And the independent doctors and surgery centers are very concerned about what happens if you have a government-backed monopoly with University of Missouri Healthcare, that in order to make that purchase, they would have to pass legislation that waives them of all antitrust laws and, ultimately gives them pretty significant bargaining power when it comes to reimbursement, and could have significant impact on healthcare costs and premiums and everything within mid-Missouri.
Sounds like a real simple issue.
Very simple. Very simple.
Yeah. Chris, anything else for David before we let him go?
That is it. I was going to let you wrap it up.
All right. Very good. Well, David, thanks for swinging by.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you guys.
Sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's David Jackson. We're going to let him get back to rocking and rolling here with less than 5 weeks left in the legislative session. Subject of today's Speaker's Stump Speech. Thank you, David. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, coming up, we're going to have Dr. Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show. We're going to speak with him about the Swalwell fallout and the Strait of Hormuz and much more. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
I listen to News Talk STL on the app driving to work.
Download the News Talk STL app.
You got to get the News Talk STL app.
Love the app. Can listen anywhere in St. Louis.
And listen anytime.
News Talk STL right on my phone.
Anywhere.
The Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway, Rodney and Jen Wallner, standing by to assist you today when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. Did you know the Wallners are licensed in both Missouri and Illinois? They can help you out on both sides of the river when you give them a ring at 314-810-SOLD. Rodney and Jen Wallner are wonderful people. They are a wonderful couple. They are homegrown, hometown folks. They are not weekend warriors. This is what they do day in, day out, year in, year out. And they've been joined recently by our own Jamie Allman. Yes, he's on the Wallner Home Selling Team now. You can reach any of them when you call them at 314-810-SOLD. You know, the Wallners are going to offer you a flexible commission plan. It's going to be tailored to your family's specific needs. Not going to be some cookie cutter boilerplate model. If you have a problem, need to walk away, come back, there's no obligation. There's nothing that pins you down, locks you in, penalizes you for needing to change your mind. They want you to be the happy camper client for sure. It's an incredible level of service. Ronnie and Jen are a really wonderful team, husband and wife team, unique family perspective. And with Jamie's addition, you get 3 awesome folks for the price of 1. They come from 3 different perspectives. Rodney knows so much about the financial aspect of the real estate business, the mortgage industry, and so much more. They give you a lot of advice on that. Jen knows where all the hot deals are, where all the hot spots are, where all the diamonds in the rough are, where all the gems and pearls are in real estate in our region. As I said, they can assist you anywhere in the St. Louis metro or any of the collar counties or beyond. And yeah, they can help you in Illinois as well, licensed in both states. Call the Wallners today for a free listing consultation. You will sell your homestead with this awesome, locally, independently owned team of the Wallner Home Selling Team. You can reach them at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for my favorite go-to store for seafood, gourmet goodness, and tons of wine. It's Stars, 1135 South Big Bend. A huge selection of seafood flown in from the coast. Lemon sole, halibut, Maryland lump crab, Gulf shrimp, and you gotta try the trout dip. Plus, imported and domestic hand-cut cheeses, lots of hand-picked wines at great prices, hard-to-find gourmet foods, and fresh roasted coffee using only the best quality beans. Stars, 1135 South Big Bend, just off of Highway 40.
What if Missouri eliminated its income tax entirely?
Find out how at the Road to Zero Income Tax Town Hall.
Hosted by News Talk STL's own Mike Ferguson.
Joined by Senator Nick Schroer and Representative Ben Keithley.
Come ready with your questions and get the facts on the plan to phase out Missouri's income tax for good.
Thursday, April 30th at the Lodge de Pere, presented by AFP Missouri and Mo Tax Relief Now.
RSVP today at afpmissouri.com. That's afpmissouri.com.
Steph's Pizza. You know the name. They're famous for their St. Louis-style pizza. But don't forget their party platters for the holidays. Steph's sandwiches, pasta, and pizza are always big hits at any get-together. And the party platters make it easy. 3 great locations, St. Peter's on Jargaman, in St. Charles on Zumbill, and their newest location in Lake St. Louis at 111 Pondfort Trail. Check them out at stefspizza.com, stefspizza.com. And remember, tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
When the storm hits and a tree comes down, you need someone you can trust right now. OLI Outdoor Services in Godfrey is on call 24/7 for emergency tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, and land clearing. Serving Illinois and Missouri with licensed, insured professionals and over 200 years of combined experience. Tree removal starting at just $2.99. Free estimates, plus financing. Visit OLIOutdoorServices.com or call 1-888-5-SAWING.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
This is the first time that Swalwell's accusers have been willing to go on camera.
Then one night he was on a trip and he was laying in his hotel room bed, and then he sent me a photo of his penis.
So, 2 weeks ago, Albrecht reached out to her good friend Cheyenne Hunt, a Democratic content creator, and asked her to post a video about the rumors that have dogged Swalwell for years.
I was immediately slammed with DMs from other women who said, I have a story to tell.
Gentlemen, we're about to enter the fascinating sphere of police work, the world of forensic medicine.
Truly, you have a dizzying intellect.
Randy Tobler, Truth Warrior, Woke Destroyer.
Dr. Tobler, it's been a while, my friend. How have you been?
Been real good. How are you guys doing? Everything good?
Really, really good. You know what? I wish somebody would do like some type of study or some type of polling and ask women, do they really like penis pictures? Does that do anything for them? Because we find that these perverts, that's one of the things that they do is they send a picture of their private part like that. I don't understand the psychology of that.
No.
Do you?
Well, you know the old phrase that, women think with their brains and guys think with other parts. You've heard that. And I guess maybe guys think that women like us for our brains.
You handled that.
I don't know.
You handled
I
that
don't
very
understand
deftly.
it.
Thank you.
I look, this whole deal, I didn't know she was an influencer. I heard that on that report. But it really speaks to the crazy hysteria over influencers and self-aggrandizement and this aspiration to be noticed. It used to be, you become an astronaut and go to the moon, or you're Michael DeBakey that does the first heart transplant. That's how you got noticed in the world. Now it's by being an influencer, by hanging out with crazy politicians that don't know their what from a hole in the ground. And it's just a weird culture we live in. The celebrity culture has shifted now to social media.
Doc, I hope this isn't true, but boy, doesn't this seem like we're in like the last days of Rome before the fall? I mean, people are just fat, lazy, happy, got obviously way too much time on their hands. Whatever happened with American ingenuity and get-to-itiveness, right? I mean, I guess pretty soon the robots are just going to wake us up every morning, feed and bathe us, and then just plug us back into the Matrix.
You're really right. If you look at that, I forget who was it that's been credited for that sort of cycle of civilizations, right? Tyranny begets revolution, and revolution begets freedom, and freedom begets prosperity, and prosperity begets complacency and laziness, and all the things you just mentioned. And that is a wide open gate for more tyranny, right? And we're seeing that now with our crazy, fraudulent welfare system, out of control social services spending. And, we've seen it from Minneapolis to LA to everywhere where, it's become convenient for people in power to take one people's money and give it to another group of people, right? Mm-hmm. And it just, you're right. It's chaos. And it frankly relates back to, I think, what the founding fathers said. I mean, several of them, right? Adams and others, that, in order to have this free society, you need to have the accountability and sort of that conscience, if you will, that comes with a different worldview. I think that comes with a moral and religious people, and we've lost that. But it's great to see revival happening again in our country, though. That's a bright side.
Dr. Tobler, as a good Christian man, I do have to ask you about the meme that the president put out of himself on Sunday, dressed as a Red Cross doctor, that the media misconstrued as him being Jesus. I want to get your thoughts on that.
I don't know. First, Donald Trump disparages the Pope. Then he acts like then he puts a meme that he's Jesus. I wouldn't want to be his cardiologist. He may be doing a cardiac cath some night. I don't know. I mean, if God ever wanted to throw lightning bolts, now's the time. Now's the time. Don't mess with the Pope, and don't make like you're Jesus, or don't even give people a chance to think that you're making like you're Jesus.
It was a Red Cross
not
doctor.
a good move, in my humble opinion.
It was a Red Cross doctor.
Yeah, right.
You know, Doc.
Sure.
Yeah, I think sometimes we wish that the good president, Donald J. Trump, would maybe stay on topic, with what he's working on. On the other hand, Dr. Tobler, isn't it fascinating to watch the media spin themselves into knots and circles and gymnastics when, on the other hand, anytime any leftist organization or person comes out with something absolutely even beyond abhorrent, Doc, they call it art, right? When they show people urinating on crucifixes or doing unspeakable things I can't even talk about on the radio to the Blessed Virgin Mary, then it's called art and it's performative and we're supposed to praise the ingenuity of it. Donald Trump, look, the guy by now, right? It's been over a decade of the jokes and the social media and all that. Yes, I wish he'd focus more on the matters at hand. On the other hand, it just seems, Doc, that the hand wringing and the pearl clutching it continues to be very one-sided in our culture.
No, that's the story of the left, right? It's hypocrisy on display all the time. And the double standard is it's taller than Mount Everest. And I think that, sadly, there is so much of that has almost become normal. It's almost become expected. And I think many people who don't watch it like you do and I do, and I think those in the talkosphere, we're constantly noticing that. But I think your average person trying to gut out a living in this world of ours, they don't maybe catch the nuance of that because they get so much of the one-sided hypocrisy that it becomes their normal. It's almost like folks who have cataracts. They become so used to it that when they get their lens replaced, it's my God, I didn't know the whole world wasn't yellow, and I think that's what happens. It's sad to see, but I mean, thankfully, I think people do realize though that Donald Trump, they are realizing, look, he calls a lot of things absolutely right and straight down the middle. He hits it out of the park when it's about closing our borders, when it's about reining in regulations, when it's about making European nations accountable, when it's about finally making the very tough, it's a tough political decision. He just said the other day, but gas prices may be pretty high in midterms, to do the right thing that, 4 or 5 presidents before him have not done. And if they would give him a little credit for that, and some of the things that he says they may sound harsh, they may sound, apolitical and not nuanced, but by God, they're right. Man, I could take a little criticism when he says some bonehead things. I could deal with that. But you're right. The one-sided critique just doesn't cut it for people who want to take the time to inspect that.
Speaking with Dr. Randy Tobler, host of the Randy Tobler Show here on News Talk STL on Saturday mornings from 6 to 9. Dr. Tobler, it's been a few weeks since we've talked with you, and there's been a lot of developments regarding the war with Iran. The latest, of course, is the failed talks that happened in Islamabad. There was not a permanent truce that was announced, and the president announced the closing of the Hormuz Straits, or he blocked it. And we hear today that a Chinese tanker went through that strait today. Your overall thoughts on what's going on?
Yeah, I think anytime you involve yourself in an action like this with a country that's been dug in, been prepared, and absolutely ideologically unswerving as the Iranian regime is, you're in for a fight on many levels, right? And to make it worse, they're so absolutely, I think they're psychotic. I mean, I think, psychosis is when you're out of touch with reality. And I think they're out of touch with reality. I mean, they're at the Alamo and they think they're, behind an Abrams tank with nuclear tipped missiles on it, right? They think they've still got some fight left in them, and they may have a little bit. But I think that's going to be the challenge. Look, I think it's been a military success beyond anyone's wildest imagination. It was very smart to sort of take out those coastal offensive agents that the Iranians have, and the ability to take out what should have been maybe an earlier blockade, but that wouldn't have worked out well at all. You'd have been seeing, the Straits of Hormuz blowing up like a 4th of July. So, he did the right thing there, and that set the stage for now finally to have a sensible gatekeeper there in that very critical bottleneck, namely the United States, at least for the time being, controlling the valve of who flows in and out and what flows in and out. I like that. The big question that I still have, and I think it's one that we may not be able to answer, it's one that, I've heard referenced historically to sort of the difference between Germany after World War I and Germany after World War II. Those are two different Germanys. And they really still had a fight in them after World War I, which led to the next mess. And what is it going to take for us to get some assurance? What kind of signaling will it be? I think it has to be radical regime change. That's the only thing I can imagine. When and if the green light is given to everyday Iranians who were being slaughtered back in the winter and, have wanted us to open the gates for them and part the seas, if you will, so they can take back their country. If and when that happens, and if they do take back their country and they become the if you will, the house arrest agents of it, what's left of the IRGC, you might get some sense that at least for a generation or two, that ideology is no longer, an Iranian ideology. It's more of a new Mideastern ideology led by a different leadership. But we've got to get somehow some messaging that the Iranians are going to stand down, and like a wild Mustang, they finally have been broken. And some horses, it takes a lot of time and, frankly, a lot of whipping and beating, and some people call it animal abuse, to finally whip some wild horses. And I that's the way I think about this. They just need to be broke in equestrian terms.
Doc, wouldn't it be great if other networks, especially the national corporate media, would have the exact discussion that we're having right now, this conversation about, wow, what a better world that would be. Look, I give Donald Trump a lot of credit for trying to do something that, as you pointed out, and as Chris and I have discussed many times, every president for the last 50 years has said, Iran cannot have a nuclear missile. We must take out the world's largest state sponsor of terror. And then nobody does anything about it because look at the risks, right? Donald Trump's taking a huge risk here. But Doc, what a different world that would be. It seems like all the media can focus on is how horrible the United States is, how demonic the Zionist state of Israel is. No one talks, Doc, about the theocratic 7th century regime that's been in power for 50 years, has killed over 1,000 Americans and probably thousands of other peace-loving people around the world, has slaughtered tens of thousands of its own people, treats women as second-class citizens, and stones LGBTQXYZ people in the streets or hangs them off bridges. Isn't it interesting, Doc, that none of those conversations about a post-Mullah regime in Iran are even thought about by anybody on the boob tube, as my grandpa would say?
No, you're right. I think that it goes back to our discussion about the economy and sort of complacency and people just getting really good to getting really used to having it really fairly easy, certainly compared to our forefathers and to the rest of the world in terms of our standard of living. And you begin to take it for granted, and you don't protect it in the very difficult ways that good things need protection. And now people have a short-term look, right? And everyone's just warm and fuzzy. And, I just want to stay on my social media and go down and have my tea at the tea room and, go listen to my concerts and stream my videos. And well, don't worry about it until they're at a venue that gets attacked by a mass murderer from, of the radical Islamic thing. When you can't have a hug and a kumbaya with these radicals from that part of the world. And you see what's happened as Europe has tried to embrace that, from Germany to the UK, time after time after time, you see these terrible slaughters that happen. And it comes to a country called the United States once in a while. How they can see that reality and how they can argue that without something named Donald Trump and the United States military to put a stop to it once and for all, it's only going to get worse, like a black mold that first of all starts behind the drywall, and before long, baby, it's everywhere. And that's what's going to happen. So, I don't know, these liberals, I guess they just think, look, my life's going to be over in a decade or two or three or four, whatever, depending on, whatever. It's okay. I'll be okay for now. The chances of me getting slaughtered by some kind of a a horde of radical Islamists like we have invading Europe and parts of America, like Minneapolis and Dearborn, Michigan. Hey, whatever. It's not in my neighborhood. I don't know. That's their problem. I'm not going to worry about it. It's short-sighted. It's selfish. And like most Americans increasingly, the concept of sacrifice and service and risk-taking in behalf of the greater good, that's lost on most Americans, not on conservatives and Donald Trump and many in our military.
Wise words from Dr. Randy Tobler, host of The Randy Tobler Show on News Talk STL, Saturday mornings from 6 to 9. On X, he's at Randy Tobler, MD, and bodyofhealth.com. Dr. Tobler, thank you so much for your time.
All right, a lot of fun. Talk soon.
Thank you. All right, 5:43. It is the end of the show, and the National Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its class of 2026. I'll tell you who has been inducted. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We'll watch for an isolated storm this evening and tonight. Most of the rain coming at us from the west will weaken, if not fall apart, but we'll be on guard if a storm can hold its intensity. Otherwise, by morning, a low of 70 degrees, a few isolated showers and some thunder, and then a high of 81 under mostly cloudy skies. It's a First Alert weather day, the Wednesday, as we watch for some scattered storms anywhere from the afternoon to evening. Some of those could be severe, hail and wind, the most likely threats. Then Thursday, morning storms end, and then some sunshine in the afternoon with a high of 82. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Vic Borselli Show.
Boy, nothing positive at all about that Francis Howell School District School Board election, Ken. Nothing positive. Nothing. Oh, wait. Jane Pushkar has some positive take.
Oh, good.
Let's talk to her about that Wednesday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Even the best windows can lose their shine without the right care. And if your windows, doors, or storefront glass are looking dull or streaked, I've got a great local recommendation for you. STL Windows and Doors now offers professional window cleaning through their sister company, STL Window Cleaners, serving homes and businesses all across greater St. Louis. My wife and I had our windows cleaned last summer and a few weeks ago, and I tell you, the difference was incredible. This isn't some quick spray and wipe job. They use triple filtered, ultra pure water that removes the minerals that cause streaks and spots, leaving your windows crystal clear. STL Window Cleaners handles everything, interior and exterior glass, frames, sills, track screens, and if you've got worn or damaged screens, they'll replace those too. They do it carefully, thoroughly, and professionally. Whether you're getting your home ready to sell, hosting an event, or you just want more natural light with the warmer weather coming, they make it easy with flexible scheduling and eco-friendly solutions. They also offer commercial window cleaning for offices and office storefronts, working around your schedule to keep your business looking sharp. And remember, they're still the same trusted, family-owned team St. Louis relies on for windows and door installations. Hey, give them a call today. Get on the schedule at 314-277-5952 or visit stlwindowsanddoors.com, stlwindowsanddoors.com. STL Windows and Doors, making St. Louis homes sparkle all year long.
Don't paint, don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Never paint again with Rhino Shield. Listen to what a couple of happy customers have to say.
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted. Our building was really faded. You came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
What a wonderful job they did. It's beautiful. They were very thoughtful, kind, considerate guys. Appreciate all the work that these two young men did.
Call Rhino Shield, 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Don't vinyl, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
Now, the Free Market Minute, brought to you by the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University.
Hey, it's Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show. I am here with Dr. Grant Black. And Grant, entrepreneurship, it's one of those buzzwords we hear a lot about, but is entrepreneurship really important to the economy?
It definitely is. Entrepreneurship is a consistent contributor to economic growth. It creates new products and services that people value. It creates the new businesses that provide them. It fosters innovation that improves productivity, and it increases beneficial competition. It generates jobs, income, wealth mobility, and even tax revenues that all support and enhance communities. Entrepreneurship matters, so we need to help it thrive in all our communities.
The John W. Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise at Lindenwood University fosters and examines market-oriented approaches to economic and social issues. To learn more, visit hammondinstitute.org.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Who wants more Mark Zuckerberg in their lives? The Meta head honcho has reportedly created an AI version of himself to make Meta employees feel more connected to him. A photorealistic 3D copy of Zuck is being trained to recreate his mannerisms, tone, and even voice. That will allow his doppelganger to read back publicly available statements and his existing thoughts on company strategy.
549 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. Tim, I could save them a lot of money trying to do a 3D Zuck. All they need to do is recreate data from the old Star Trek series, and I think you'd have a good clone copy right there. You just use data.
Yeah, I think you
could. They look
It'd
similar.
It'd be done and done, right?
All right, let all of the hand-wringing, the arguing, the gnashing of teeth begin. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has announced its class of 2026. Some people you'd expect. Phil Collins, Iron Maiden, Oasis. Here's one that's going to have folks upset, the rock and roll purists upset. Wu-Tang Clan is in. Billy Idol. And I feel I should know them. I've never heard of Joy Division. Joy, who the hell is Joy Division?
Oh, yeah.
What do they play?
Tim knows Joy Division.
Tim, give me a Joy Division. Give me a hit of theirs.
Alt rock band, Chris, from the 80s. Alt rock band from the 80s.
Well, I was alive in the 80s. I don't know them.
Well, I don't know. Where would they? I don't know that we had. So they would have been. I don't think we had the. Did we? Yeah, we did. They would have been played on the Point here in St. Louis in the 80s. Yeah, very, very alternative rock.
Are they middle to late 80s? Because I wasn't listening to a lot of radio at that time because I didn't have a driver's license.
No, early. Very early. Actually, late 70s, early 80s, and they lasted up until the 90s. Chris, their most famous song was called Love Will Tear Us Apart.
Okay.
Love Will Tear Us Apart. Joey could find that. It was a very popular song, but it was 1980. That's a long time ago.
And here's another group I think I should probably know. New Order.
Oh, yeah.
What are they?
They came off of Joy Division.
Okay. So
I believe the lead singer of Joy Division died, and then New Order became their own synth.
Yeah. It says here, I looked at it wrong. It's Joy Division / New Order. So I guess they're
the whole group.
They're in together. And here's a couple of folks that are going to have the rock and roll purists gnashing their teeth. The R&B artist Sade is in, and the great crooner Luther Vandross made it into the class of 2026. Now, as this was being announced today on Black Facebook, a lot of people were upset that Wu-Tang Clan got in before New Edition. Apparently, New Edition was on there to be possibly inducted, and they didn't make it. I think you put New Edition in before Wu-Tang Clan. Just my own personal.
You can sing
belief.
New Edition songs. You can't sing any Wu-Tang songs. No one's playing Wu-Tang at their prom.
Exactly. I'm like, Wu-Tang Clan. I didn't really particularly care for their style or for their music. I know they were very popular at one time, so you know, that's one of those. That's a head shaker for me. How does Wu-Tang Clan get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I don't know.
Well, Chris, this is once again proving the point. It's really not the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame anymore. It's the Music Hall of Fame, and they need to rename it.
Yeah, they really should. All right, you know, there's a big merger here, or Paramount Skydance is buying Warner Brothers Discovery, and a lot of the movie actors are upset about that, Tim. More than 1,000 of them, including Joaquin Phoenix, Ben Stiller, and Kristen Stewart, issued an open letter yesterday opposing the Paramount Skydance pending acquisition of Warner Brothers. They said, quote, "We are deeply concerned by indications of support for this merger that prioritize the interests of a small group of powerful stakeholders over the broader public good. The integrity, independence, and diversity of our industry would be grievously compromised. Competition is essential for a healthy economy and a healthy democracy, so is thoughtful regulation and enforcement." Boy, they almost sound like capitalists here, don't they?
Free marketeers. I mean, where did they discover all this this inner entrepreneur? I mean, it's amazing.
And we know the only reason they're upset is because the folks that own Paramount are conservative and they're Donald Trump supporters. And so that's why they were upset. I've even read that the California legislature is looking and trying to get involved in this to try to stop this merger. But they should just grin and bear it, because CNN is going to be hopefully more and more conservative. You've got you've got X, you've got all of these platforms that are being owned by conservatives, and I love it. You know, a little fair and balanced for once.
Gotta love limousine liberals, right? I mean,
exactly.
they become rich beyond their wildest dreams, wealthy and famous, only because they're in a free market capitalist society. And then, Chris, as soon as they get theirs, they want us all to be subjected to oppressive socialism, right? They just don't understand how this works, or they don't care, or they know and they don't care.
You know, Tim, it's a fact that women, of course, live longer than men. You look at insurance rates, that tells you that that's a fact. You just look at mortality statistics. Women seem to live longer than men. But, you know, that's even true in the gorilla kingdom, Tim.
Really?
Yes. Fatu, the world's oldest gorilla living in captivity. She celebrated her 69th birthday yesterday with a feast of cherry tomatoes, beets, leeks, and lettuce at the Berlin Zoo. So the oldest living gorilla is a female.
Yep. Well, the ladies are always one-upping us, aren't they? How about the turtles? How about the giant turtles that live to be hundreds of years old? I find that astounding.
They had a story about that a couple of weeks ago. I think this tortoise is they discovered it in like 1850 or something. That's like
incredible.
That thing is still alive. And I was very curious. I was like, why in the world do these animals live so long? I looked it up on ChatGPT, of course. And it said, one, because they don't have any natural enemies that are going to attack them and eat them. And the second, it's because their what do you call that? Where your heart rate and all of that stuff. It was right on the tip of my tongue.
Like your circulatory system?
Yeah. Metabolism, yes. Because their metabolism is so slow that helps with longer life, and that keeps them from getting aches and pains and cancers and things of that nature. So found it very slow. I guess that's a lesson for human beings, is to live life slow and not have any worries, and you can live to 100 years old or beyond.
Yeah. Slow down, smell the roses, and, don't worry.
Trump has said that. Trump has said you only have a certain amount of heartbeats in your lifetime, so why waste them? And that's why he plays golf.
That's why he plays golf. That's why he does some of the things that he does. And, Tim, there may be a mega merger in the airline industry coming. United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby is pitching a mega deal between American Airlines and United Airlines. I don't think this will make it through government scrutiny, because they'll be the largest airline in the world probably, but it'll be interesting to see if that happens. We shall see.
That would be massive.
It would be a massive, massive airline. All right, it's been a great show today. Coming up next, of course, is Larry Connors USA. Larry's story behind the story. 2 St. Louisans plot to steal a nuclear submarine. Boy, you want to stick around and hear that story. You've been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for